Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of Backroom Electronics. So with the name change, there's going to be a lot of other things happening as well. And before I go into that, I would like to thank my good friend Ben for his comments and suggestions on how I can improve the content quality of my channel. So thank you, Ben. It really means a lot to me. I greatly appreciate it. So, other changes. I'm going to be ordering a workbench, which means you're no longer going to be seeing this drab wall with a window behind it. You're going to start seeing an actual workbench. What that also means is that my test equipment is no longer sitting in a storage unit 15 minutes across town that I drive to pick up, bring here, test whatever I need to, and then take it back simply because of lack of space. It's going to actually look like a workbench, and I'm going to actually have a good space where I can work on things without this constant back and forth shenanigans that I've been doing for I don't even know how many years now. One other change I do have in mind is a format change. I'm going to be moving away from the format of, here, let me show you this cool little segment of whatever I'm working on, and instead move into more of a complete restoration video. When I open something, you're seeing it for the first time I am, and that could mean that the restoration takes significantly longer than I was expecting it to. That could mean that, hey, there's nothing wrong with this thing. I can just put it back together, align it, and get it out the door. That could mean any of a number of different things. And we're going to discover all these things together as we go along. Now, changes aside, I do still want to produce content, and I still have other projects I want to accomplish. One of those is my beloved Schiit. This is the Schiit Valhalla 2 output transformerless triode headphone amplifier. It's a mouthful. So this thing has a very obnoxious problem. It's crackling. And it only crackles as it warms up. It crackles for the first few minutes of warming up, and then it fades away, and then it runs beautifully. It sounds beautifully. It's fantastic. This amplifier is my pride and joy. I listen to this thing for hours a day, every single day. It sits on my desk at work, and I run it every single day, without fail. The problem is, I need to fix that crackle. I've sent it into Schiit Audio, and they were not able to reproduce the problem. I suspect I know what it is, but we're going to explore that together. We're going to diagnose this problem, and we're going to find the problem together. So, that being said, let's get on with it. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. Here's basically where I'm at. I spent a good amount of time working on this last night. I was unable to reproduce the problem reliably, so I decided to give it, overnight to cool down, and I'd stick it back on my oscilloscope this morning. That didn't happen. I still have not been able to reproduce the crackle in a way that's really easily visible to you on the oscilloscope. So it's basically very much an intermittent problem, and I kind of fight with it off and on, and sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. If I move it just right, it won't happen. Other times it'll be horrible. So I think what the best option at this point is to just move into just disassemble this whole unit. So that's what I'm in the middle of right now. I'm noticing that I do have some longer screws than others in here, so I'm trying to keep those kind of separate here. And I think I'm down to the last handful of screws. You can see some of the adhesive that I just never got around to cleaning off from the old feet that failed pretty early on in this thing's life. The feet that came with this headphone amp were pretty terrible. So I just have to remove that one last screw. So here's the problem with this. Okay, it's not going to fall. I was afraid it was going to fall, and it wasn't going to come out in a clean manner. Hey, there we are. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. So if you've not seen this construction before, it's actually kind of interesting. It's this folded sandwich type thing. Kind of cool. Just all aluminum. And then here we have my Schiit. So I think the best option, since this looks like it's mostly through-hole components, in fact, I don't see a single surface mount device on here. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to start investigating and figuring out if I can't find a bad solder joint Offhand, it's obvious this thing was hand soldered. You can see some irregularities, like that almost looks like a loose solder joint right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video, I'm going to pull the last screws out, pull the circuit board completely out of the unit, and then we'll have a closer look from there. So, see you in just a second. Okay, so here's where I am. I am still fighting with this thing. I have pressed on all of the components, and since you couldn't see that before, I was basically with it powered on. I was just pressing on all the components here with this wooden spoon. That way my hands are not anywhere near any high voltage devices. I've not found anything that caused the crackle outside of just tapping on the chassis, which itself was generally causing microphonics in the tube. It wasn't actually affecting the crackle that I've been seeing, which is unfortunate and irritating and all the things. So at this point, I am reduced to checking voltages everywhere and poking at this and following the signal path with my oscilloscope. So I'm going to do that. I'm also going to look with my voltmeter here. I've got it set to DC 200 volts, which is about what I would expect to see in any of the high voltage sections here in these vacuum tubes. I'm going to follow that through and see what I find, and we will see what we find. Okay, so welcome back. Unfortunately, I'm still unable to reproduce the problem. I have been trying for 2 days now. I'm kind of at the point where I'm starting to suspect that there is something power related, and not with the board, but with wherever I'm plugging it in at work. So at this point, I'm kind of thinking this guy is okay. If it continues happening, I'm going to put it back in its case, and I'm going to keep poking at it and see what I can find. All right, everyone. So I may have just stumbled across the cause of this, and I did it last night as I was falling asleep, as these problems commonly end up being resolved. It didn't occur to me to consider any sort of thermomechanical stresses on the board or other things as a whole. And I completely overlooked this entire time for I don't even know why. But look right here. This here is a ground pin. If I touch the ground pin right there, like that is the ground pin. This is coming into contact enough with this circuit board, this is coming into contact enough with this transformer here, that if I stick this just up against the core here, and I press on the, if I pull it away, obviously it's not going to beep, but if the minute I press it up against, like right there, like we're getting only a few ohms resistance between those 2 points. I'm almost wondering if some bouncy ground thing is happening, causing my noise. So let's find out. I actually have had a really hard time reproducing this, but now I'm going to apply some stress to this plug here. I'm going to change the camera so I can show you my oscilloscope screen, and we're going to play around with this point right here. I mean, you can see how much this, generally this won't be flopping around in the breeze like this because it's held in place with screws against the chassis, but given enough thermomechanical stress, I can see this intermittently bouncing here and causing a problem. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to reframe my camera, and we are going to see if we can't reproduce the problem by bouncing this pin off of the transformer core itself, and see if we can't get that waveform to appear, and see if I can't reproduce that horrendous problem that I've been having. So I'm going to reframe the camera, and I will be right back. I can't show you both of these at the same time because my camera, I don't have a great camera setup yet. I'm working on that. That will be coming in the next few months. But if I tap, see that jump on the screen? Yeah, right there. There's my cause. That is absolutely causing a noise through the system, and it's causing a jump, a spike. I'm going to plug in my headphones and make sure that that's what I'm hearing, but I am 98% sure that that is my noise, and now I can reproduce it at will by having some sort of stress against that ground lug right there. I'm going to have to see what I can do to clear that up, I think if I just bend that lug out of the way, since it's not soldered to anything, it's not actively in use, I'm pretty sure I can fix this. Now this has been to Schiit Audio, and they didn't find a problem. Granted, it took me about a week to find the problem myself, but Schiit couldn't find the problem either, so there is that. So I'm going to pause the video again. I'm going to plug in my headphones, and I'm going to have a listen and see what I can find. So yeah, I'll be right back. Alright everyone, so here's what I have done. I took some pliers first of all, and I bent that lug back away from the transformer to give me some airspace here. And then I took a little bit of heat shrink tubing, and I actually gave it a little bit of extra just to make sure that that end was truly covered and wasn't going to possibly come into contact with that transformer core again. I'm pretty sure that that's going to fix my problem. I'm going to reassemble this guy. I'm going to bring him back to work, and I'm going to give him a few weeks of listening and see if that truly fixes the problem. But as of right now, that seems like it has, so we'll go from here. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video detailing the repair of my headphone amp. If you like what you saw, be sure to subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Catch you next time.